Hi, everybody. This is Tracy. Today, we are going to talk about betrayal. Betrayal can be cheating, lying, stealing, or having a secret life. They can be someone who has gone and smeared your name, someone that you trusted has betrayed you. And what can happen is that this betrayal can manifest into your body. It can make you sick. It can make you stuck. My guest today, Debi Silber, is going to, she is a transformational psychologist, and she did a TEDx talk, and she has created an institute to help people train how to get through these stages of betrayal. So without further ado, let's welcome Debi. She's awesome, and I can't wait for you to meet her. Thank you so much for joining me, Debi.
Oh, I'm so glad to be here.
I was so excited when I first saw your your TED Talk, because you did a betrayal TEDx talk, right?
Well, it was all about sabotage. It was, why is it that we're doing well in health and in business, in relationships, and then we derail ourselves? And it's because, we're numbing, we're avoiding, we're distracting. And that has so much to do with betrayal, because we will do those things to avoid healing from our betrayal, or, we're doing the betrayer is using, let's say, their infidelity or whatever it is they're choosing to do as their way of avoiding, numbing, and distracting. So it's powerful.
It's very powerful. And you are a betrayal expert. How'd that happen?
You don't dive into a topic like that unless you need to. And I was in health and mindset and personal development for 27 years. And then I had a family betrayal. It was horrible. But you know how the universe works. You didn't learn your lesson there, so you get another opportunity in the form of another person. And it was my husband. And that just catapulted me into this PhD program in transpersonal psychology, the psychology of transformation and human potential, because I was transforming and I didn't understand it. And I wanted to understand why people do what we do and how I can heal. Mm-hmm. And while I was there, I had to do a study. So I just felt so compelled to do this study on how women experience betrayal, what holds them back, what helps them heal. And we made 3 discoveries during that study. So it was just profound. I mean, the first was that there's a collection of symptoms so common to betrayal, it's become known as post-betrayal syndrome. So I have a quiz that actually teaches you to what level you're still struggling. The second discovery was that, healing from betrayal is very different than healing from death of a loved one, disease. I had been through all of them. It felt very different, but I didn't want to assume. Mm-hmm. Brought it out to my study participants. They agreed. So we coined a new term, post-betrayal transformation. And then the biggest discovery was that, while you can stay stuck for decades or a lifetime, if you're going to heal, you will move through 5 now proven predictable stages.
Really? What are the stages?
The first is, it's like a setup stage, and by no means is this any blame or judgment. This is what I found with every study participant, including me. If you imagine 4 legs of a table, let's say the 4 legs are mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual. What I saw with every single study participant, and I was doing the same thing, we prioritized the mental and the physical. So it's as if we are one big to-do list and our bodies are taking us around to do that. Mm-hmm. But think about it. If you're not paying attention to the emotional and the spiritual, you've shut down your intuition. Mm-hmm. And every woman in my study said, something felt like not right, but I didn't really pay attention to it. Anyway, if you only have a table with 2 legs, it's real easy to topple over. So that was the setup. And then from there, we're in stage 2, and that's the shock of the betrayal. And here's the breakdown of the body, the mind, and the worldview. When you get that shock, you ignite the stress response. So now you're creating this cascade of stress-related symptoms, illnesses, conditions, even disease. There's a breakdown of the mind. Your mind is in a state of complete mental chaos. You can't wrap your head around any of this. None of it makes sense. There's a breakdown of the worldview. Your worldview is how you view the world. Your mental construct, like you're safe, this works, this is how the world goes, right? And betrayal shatters all of that. All of that. So and it shatters everything that was real and true. So this is by far the most terrifying stage, because a new worldview hasn't shown up yet, but the way you've known things no longer exists. Here's where
Everything is gone. Everything is different. Everything you believed, everything you trusted is gone.
all of it. So think about it. If the bottom were to bottom out on you, what would you do? You would do whatever, if you're walking down the street, you would do whatever you could to grab onto anything to stay alive. And that's what stage 3 is. Its survival instincts emerge. This is a very practical stage. Where do I live? What will I do? How will I survive this? How do I feed my kids? Extremely practical. And I will tell you though, this is a stage that we can stay in forever.
Really?
This is a stage where the stress response is still ignited, is still engaged. We are still breaking down the body. We are, it's like there's this tornado going on and, you want to put up curtains. It's not the time. You're in survival. So once you figure out, okay, I can survive by, my kids will be okay because of this. I'll work here. I'll do whatever it is that you need to go through to know you can survive your experience. You move to stage 4. And stage 4 is finding and adjusting to a new normal. Your old normal doesn't exist anymore. It's not an option. Mm-hmm. And it's like if you've ever moved, if you ever left your house, condo, apartment, office, whatever, and you moved into a new one, it doesn't feel right yet. You don't have your stuff. It's not cozy. You don't know your route to get everywhere, but it's going to be okay. And that's stage 4. And when you're feeling like that, you start to slowly turn down the stress response. So you may not be creating health right here, but at least you're not creating destruction. And when you feel safe and secure and okay in your new normal, in your new space, you slowly move into the 5th most beautiful stage. And this is healing, rebirth, and a new worldview. Here, the body starts to heal. You didn't have the bandwidth for any sort of self-love, self-care. You were all about surviving. Here's where you're more invested in your own self-care out of self-love. Look what you've been through. You want to take care of yourself. Your mind starts to heal because you have all kinds of new boundaries and new rules in place based on who you've become. You have a new worldview. You see the world very differently now. And it's an entirely new mental model. And remember that table in the beginning where we were only prioritizing the physical and the mental? Now we are solidly grounded because we're paying attention to the emotional and the spiritual too.
Yeah. Well, all of these stages, I know that I have passed through. I just didn't know they were stages. Mm-hmm. And that name and everything that you said made so much sense to me. But I know that we talked about how betrayal can manifest in the body, because you had said something to me which I just repeated to you because it was so meaningful. I told you that since all of my betrayal, I have gained like 15 pounds. Mm-hmm. And do you want to tell everyone what you said about it? Because it's impactful, and I think everyone needs to hear this.
Yeah, I don't remember the exact words that I said, but it's something, we use weight to protect ourselves. Think about it. When we're young, we hide behind mom's leg. When we're older, weight provides the same protection. And when it comes to betrayal, trust, which is foundational, is shattered. It can take 30, 40 years to build, and it comes down like this. And so we don't trust, and we're wary to trust. And what the weight does is it's a way of, well, I'm going to keep out, instead of saying, I'm going to keep out the bad guys, but let the good guys in, we're like, I'm keeping out everybody. And it's a way of doing that because we don't feel safe. And one of the biggest things that I teach is, how do you rebuild that trust again? Because think about it. If the person you trusted the most proves untrustworthy, who do you trust? If the ones you'd run to when other people are causing harm are the ones causing the harm, where do you go? So we don't trust ourselves because we're like, how did I not see this coming? So what I teach is these little micro steps to begin trusting in the most basic things, from the sun will rise in the morning. Yay! And then when you can count on that, and sure enough, that's what happens. Or a puppy will wag its tail when I am playing with it, right? Something like that. And then you're just like, whew, okay. Because if you never rebuild trust, you're living half a life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, how do we build trust? Besides knowing that the sun's going to come up, how do we build trust again?
Yeah, it's a process, it's very different depending on, like, let's say you're rebuilding with the same person. Now, that person, you could have been in a relationship 40 years, and imagine a brick wall, right? The wall is destroyed with betrayal, just demolished, destroyed. It's completely taken down. How does it get built? Brick by brick by brick. So each act showing that person is now trustworthy rebuilds that wall. But what you have, and I have seen it both ways. I'm a living example of the rebuild, and I know it doesn't happen with everybody, but that devastation on the person who's been betrayed can create an equal shock for the person who was the betrayer, because they when they lose everything that's ever meant anything to them, they can wake up too. So it has to be micro daily steps. Now, when you're not rebuilding with that same person, and so often that's the case too, it's strengthening your intuition is one of the most important things you can do, because that's like your BS meter, and it becomes so sharpened and so strengthened. But here, and I remember one of my mentors saying to me, your gut is 10,000 times more powerful than your mind will ever be.
Really?
But think about what happens. We get a gut feeling and we override it with our mind. Oh, don't pay attention to that. And our mind talks us out of it. Meanwhile, the gut knew all along. So if you imagine your gut, your intuition, having little like sensory things, 10,000 more of them than what your mind knows. And if you learn to strengthen and trust that, that's how you build trust again, first in you and then in others.
Wow. That's really helpful, because I think that's one of the last hurdles. If I was building that brick wall of recovery, I love that analogy. I'm going to use it all the time now. That last brick is just sort of like, do I want to trust? And I've built the new friends. I've built the new world. I trust myself. I can depend on myself. And maybe it's just going to take that person coming in that I don't have that sudden reaction to.
And here's the thing, you want to do the work and heal it, because if not, people will keep showing up to show you the work you still need to do.
I know.
So that's the challenge. And people say, well, I just want to be out of this feeling, so I want to be in a new relationship. Oh, no, you don't. Because I've worked with thousands of women over the years. It is not the time to, when you are healing from a betrayal, you need to physically, mentally, and emotionally heal. Betrayal hits us on every level. See, here's the challenge. We think, oh, if I just do some talk therapy, I'll be healed. Oh, if I just take care of that, my anxiety or the weight or whatever, I'll be healed. Or if I just, time will heal it. No, that's not the case at all. This imprints, it's in our cells. So we need to heal on every level. And unless you've made sense and meaning out of your experience, and you strengthen your intuition, you rebuild trust, you rebuild every aspect that's been hit, you're not ready for another relationship.
No. And that always upsets me. I have a lot of friends that have gone out too early. And it's always the same. And then they're knocking their head on the wall going, why do I keep picking these jerks? And I'm like, in many ways, you are, and in many ways they are. They can see that you're vulnerable and they can take advantage of you.
Yeah. And it's because they're the same. That's the thing, because I got the same thing too. Why do I keep dating the same type of person? Because you're the same. You keep bringing the same you into every relationship.
Liking that same person, it becomes a pattern that, until we've learned in the codependent, people pleasing, we can learn all the red flags and we can see those. But it's about that intuition about a person that makes us trust them. And, trust is not something that people can tell you. Oh, trust me, I'm trustworthy. You know what? Actions speak louder than words. And it's like, I don't know if it's going to be 1 or 2 times that you don't show up and you're that person. I don't care. I'm not waiting any longer because your actions showed me. And so people have to really understand that they are attracting this if they're not totally healing.
And I'll tell you, another thing I see all the time is, yes, it's a trust issue. It's a worthiness issue too. Because if we do not feel worthy and deserving of a quality relationship, we will never find one. Or if we don't feel lovable, see, what I see so often too is, let's say, I don't feel lovable, so I'm going to hope that you're going to love me because then I'll love me. Mm. No, that's not the way to do it. And this is where we're walking into a relationship. I hate that saying, you complete me. I hate it. It's like, I'm coming in as a half, and hopefully I'll meet another half, and best case scenario, I'll be one. No, you fill yourself up. You become whole and full and complete. And now someone else shows up. Now you're a power couple.
Yeah,
that's a whole different thing.
Exactly. And I think that the independence to have your own lives and, not need that. You need to complete me. I need to do everything you do. And, it's enjoy your life, and together you're much more powerful than you were before.
And healing from your betrayal gives you the perfect space to figure out, because so many women have no idea what they like, no idea who they are, no idea what they want. Especially you've been raising your family, you've been so overwhelmed or conditioned to take care of everybody else. Mm-hmm. And by the time, it's like, okay, let me take care of everybody else. And then once that's done, I'll take care of me. Of course, by that time, there's no time, energy, or space left. So it gives you that space to say, who even am I? What do I want? Or what do I want to be now?
Yeah. And that's the best part. I love the idea that we get to write our own story. It's another chapter. And who do we want to be? We get to define that and set our own rules, set our own passions. And for many people, it's finding their passion again. All of my support groups are just like, I don't know who I am anymore. And so it's like, what did you like to do? I don't remember. Yeah. Okay, let's go find it. Let's find that and make yourself happy again.
Oh, absolutely. And I remember another mentor said, when you've had trauma, you've been delivered a seed of greatness. What are you gonna do with that? And like, here I am. I'm a perfect example where I'm in the PBT, Post Betrayal Transformation Institute, a physical center. I had a home-based business for 27 years. So it's just nothing that I'm doing now ever would have happened if I didn't have my betrayal.
And that's the silver lining. I mean, I look at my story and my betrayals, and they were the best thing that ever happened to me, because had they not been there, like you said at the beginning, the lesson is going to keep coming and coming and coming. And had I not had the king assholes, I would have gone to the next one and the next one. And they just keep getting worse because the game has been upped. You've got past this, the next one's going to go here. So we need to understand and take control of our future.
And look at the people you're helping now because of what you've been through, and the groups that you hold, and the podcast, and all of this, because it's the gifts you're giving back from what you've learned and what you've gained. That's the best. That's when you take your biggest crisis and you turn it into your greatest gift. I mean, you're impacting thousands and thousands of people because of what you've experienced. Now, you have every right just to stay miserable and stuck, but instead I look at it and say, wow, then I got sort of hit on one side and I'm hitting myself on the other. Like, why would I do that?
Right. Just that whole development and changing our life when we are, betrayed and people have separated a 40-year marriage, and they're left literally in the middle of a field going, I don't know who I am. I have nothing. I don't know what I'm going to do. Find something that you're happy with and start there. It might not be your everything but just start with something that makes you happy. And I find that people who have been through something like this are always the ones that give back, and they're the best counselors, they're the best coaches, they're the ones who understand it, where someone who has never, they could read it in a book, but they don't know the feeling. And so how do you take a hand from somebody that hasn't been there? You take the hand of someone who has been there and come out the other side.
Oh, absolutely. And think about it with really anything, how it's perspective. How do you know happy unless you've been sad? How do you know thin unless you've been overweight? Like, how do you really understand bliss and joy unless you've been through trauma? So absolutely. And I know you're so right. And I remember even with my study participants, the ones who I thought wow, how do they even function based on what they've been through? And mine pales in comparison to theirs, are some of the boldest, brightest, most incredible human beings on the planet. And it's because they took that crisis and what they did with it is just incredible.
That's what we want everyone who listens to this to get that inspiration. So tell my audience a little bit about what your institute does so that they can get some guidance there.
Sure. Well, it's we do a few things. One is, now that we know the 5 stages and we know what it takes physically, mentally, and emotionally to move from one stage to the next, I have a simple online program that moves them. It's almost like, those little tracks for like if a little kid could be on a ride, and it's, as long as they sit on in that little car, they will go down this predictable track to the end of the ride. That's what this is. As long as they follow along, and they have to be willing though, because we can hang on to our story for dear life, and then you're not going anywhere. It's like that one kid who's kicking and screaming and refuses to get on. But as long as they are on there, they will get to the other side of that ride. And so that's one thing. And then from there, I have 2 different certification programs. Every single woman in my study said she would have benefited from support. But here's where we're the least likely to seek it, because there's so much shame, embarrassment, humiliation, fear of judgment, all of that. So what I did was created certified PBT, post-betrayal transformation support group hosts. 2 reasons. Number 1, the hosts heal as they're holding space for the women, and the women could find support everywhere. And the second is to be a certified PBT practitioner. And this is someone in the health, wellness, coaching fields. And here's where they are trained with this, and then they get this toolkit. So if a patient comes in with all of these symptoms and challenges having to do with betrayal, they have this extra way to help them heal. So my intention is to have these certified hosts and practitioners in every country, in every state, eventually every few blocks, and then my job is done. And then I guess I'll just play with my grandkids one day or something.
Yeah, exactly. Look out the pretty window behind you, for example.
Right, there you go.
Yeah, life is better on the other side, and what you're doing to help people is so powerful. I'm building my my support group world here, and you're building the same thing there. And again, these things weren't there before.
No,
there wasn't research on this, and this is like, we're in a time of new beginnings. And so both you and I have taken it by the horns, and we're going, you know what? Let's make some freaking lemonade here, because 100%. We had the lemons, and instead of making lemonade, I think we should just practice making a change, making a difference, because we are. So I have been honored to have you here. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
I'll put all your information down below so people can reach out and contact you, find out about the Institute, and I appreciate you coming here.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the work you're doing.
Thank you.